are now entering Pearadise.
Welcome to Pearadise.
A body-positive world of love and affirmation. But some say this oasis, dedicated to larger ladies, may not be all that it seems. What did you expect going in, and what was the reality?
I expected to, just have fun with my friends. But I didn't expect to leave feeling like I was violated or feeling uncomfortable or feeling like, wow, did that really just happen?
Allegations of inappropriate touching, even predatory behavior, all a part of a brutal legal battle threatening to tear apart the viral popularity of this community.
I've never really been able to present all the evidence that I have that basically shows that most of the allegations are completely fabricated.
My name's Emily Cass. I'm a photojournalist. I'm based out of New Orleans, Louisiana, and I've been plus size most of my life. I love culture stories. I really like working in odd subcultures. I was scrolling on TikTok one day, and I came across a TikTok where he was holding up a large swimsuit. I click into the profile, and I just see this guy, this kind of dorky looking guy, has like all these plus size women in his home. So I click in there, and I'm just fascinated. I had never seen a world like that.
Emily Kask found Pearadise and its founder, Stefan Villamy, like so many others did, by accident.
And then I'm just a normal guy. You know, that's my tagline on Instagram. I created Pearadise. My ideal type has always been very tall and very big. Like, she would be 6 foot or taller, and she would definitely be 500 plus.
Pearadise is a community in Las Vegas. It's a mansion, it's a home, built by Stefan Villamy, a man who immigrated here from Germany because he loved plus-size women. He's sexually attracted to plus-size women.
I like them round, I like them chunky.
For a year, Emily watched the live streams, joined the Pearadise Discord channel, before reaching out to Villamy in 2021.
I said, I'd like to come there and document. Is this something you'd be open to? He responded instantly. He said, I have a bedroom open right now.
At Pearadise, the girls are finding each other. They're finding a sisterhood that they never had.
Like Emily, Emmy-nominated director Tara Malone says she understood the appeal Pearadise represented.
I've been plus size my whole life, and it's a rare opportunity to be able to tell any story about the plus size community. There was no way I was not going to do this project.
Her new investigation discovery docuseries, Big Girls Wanted: Escaping Pearadise, takes a closer look at the group, the legal battle, and the fallout. Malone's cameras were there for a lot of the classic Pearadise social media content.
You guys ready for a swimsuit check?
Malone came to Pearadise to answer many of the same questions Emily had. The difference? Malone showed up after allegations of defamation and sexual assault.
When allegations come out, they are on TikTok. They are making their case over and over again, sort of relentlessly.
Describe Stefan to me, now that you've gotten to know him as well as you have.
That is a complicated question. Stefan, I would say he is someone who is very committed to the belief that he should be allowed to be attracted to what he's attracted to. I would say he's someone that is living his dream.
Savannah Cisneros, who goes by Savvy, was one of Villamy's accusers.
Before everything happened, I would describe Stefan as a kind man. He accepted everybody with open arms. After everything that happened, I would personally describe him as what I believe as a predator.
Cisneros and a friend went to visit Pearadise for 2 weeks back in 2021 when she was just 19, but she ended up leaving early.
That I told him I don't want him to have any expectations because I don't know if I'm comfortable with that.
You didn't want to have expectations of sex?
I didn't want him to expect me to do anything.
Sexually?
Sexual, yeah.
What made you feel violated?
His conduct with me.
And how would you describe that conduct?
Inappropriate sexual conduct.
After leaving, Cisneros posted a video about what happened on social media, accusing Stefan of touching her without consent on her belly and her bottom.
You look at that from the outside, and the first time you take in the information, is that sexual? What is that? I don't know what this is. But then when you start to understand more about fetish and fat fetishists, that it does become sexual in a way that you would not expect.
Members and former members say it's no secret that sex was part of Pearadise for many, though not everyone.
There were definitely a lot of different relationship dynamics that were inside of the house. Most people were polyamorous.
Villamy has always maintained that what happens at Pearadise is between consenting adults. In a statement to ABC News, Villamy said the group was very tight-knit and familiar with one another, and, quote, "We all participated equally in harmless group activities, such as butt slaps over the top of clothing, and at the time, no one gave any indication of being uncomfortable." Once your allegations went public, what was Stefan's reaction?
Damage control. No apology, nothing. I've always said, I want a public apology and I want you to admit what you did.
But it wasn't just Cisneros. Others online were accusing Villamy too.
The shock wave that ruffled through the house was really intense to sit in. Stefan is telling people these allegations are false, and the house is just in this kind of chaos.
Kask says while she was there, she heard rumblings of legal action, but it wasn't until after she left that Villamy filed a defamation lawsuit against Cisneros and others. What was your reaction to his lawsuit against you?
At first, we got a cease and desist. I took down all my videos. I'm really scared. And at the time, I was a broke college student. I was 20 when it first started. I believe Stefan was in his 40s.
In his lawsuit, he said that leading up to your visit, there were flirting and sexually charged texts between you and him, and that based on the text messages and conduct leading up to the visit, you had, quote, implied consent, end quote, to Stefan touching you. Your thoughts?
Sorry, that just it makes me laugh. Like I said, my text messages would say quite different, where I told him I don't want him to have any expectations. I admit that there were flirty messages, there were sexual things said, but after I started to realize that it was kind of weird, I kind of took a step back.
In his lawsuit, Villamy says the allegations are false and defamatory. He also says that nothing he was accused of qualify as sexual assault under Nevada law, which requires some form of penetration.
It's hard. He doesn't deny the acts. He's very open about, yes, I touched Savvy, but to him, you can't call it sexual assault. And for Stefan, he wants to make his case. He wants to present his evidence.
In Stefan's lawsuit, he also said that you never accused him of non-consensual touching or sexual assault while you were visiting his home, and that you continued to stay with him even after incidents.
I didn't want to upset the herd. He said, if I ever make you uncomfortable, just let me know. I told him, he kept, every time he would talk to me, he would get really close to my face. And I would just back up, and I eventually ended up telling him I was uncomfortable.
Ultimately, Cisneros and the others filed what's called an anti-slap motion, which basically argues that their allegations are protected under the First Amendment, and their statements are in the public's best interest to know.
He is a public figure. I believe he preys on women like me, and I didn't want anything to happen to anybody else.
Ultimately, in 2022, a judge dismissed Vilhelmy's defamation case, saying that while the accusations would not qualify as criminal sexual assault under Nevada law, the women in the lawsuit believed that what they were saying was true and called it sexual assault based on the public's general understanding of the phrase. What was your reaction when the lawsuit was dismissed?
Well, happiness, probably one of the best days of my life other than getting married.
In a statement to ABC News, Vilhelmy acknowledged that the anti-slap law makes it extremely difficult for a public figure to defend themselves, and that the term sexual assault, for 99% of the audience, it will be interpreted equal to rape. He added, the judge did note that actual sexual assault, as defined by the law, did not take place, and any complaint brought against me based on known evidence would certainly be dismissed. He adds that not a single person was ever coerced to be there. No one has been exploited. How do you think people are going to react to the doc?
I hope that it starts conversations about how we treat each other, about empathy, about what we should be able to say to women about their bodies.
Pearadise is still up and running, online and at Vilhelmy's home in Vegas.
Stefan refers to his friendships and girls in his house as seasons. I believe we're on season 8 right now, so the characters and the casts change.
Are you glad that a place like Pearadise exists?
I need a minute with this. People who are plus size need community. People of all marginalized bodies need community. There are a lot of purposes that Pearadise serves, and some of that lives in the sun and some of that lives in the shadows.